Hey there movie lovers, welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're heading to a galaxy far, far away as we revisit the 2005 finale to the prequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Packed with epic lightsaber duels, heartbreaking betrayals, and the long-awaited transformation of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader, this chapter delivered some of the saga's most emotional and unforgettable moments. But how much do you really know about what went on behind the scenes? So grab your lightsabers and brace yourself for the dark side as we uncover 20 things you never knew about Revenge of the Sith. Early in development, plans were considered to feature a 10-year-old Han Solo living on Kashyyyk, where he would have discovered part of a transmitter droid that ultimately helped Yoda track Grievous to Utapau. The concept was later abandoned after Lucas reportedly felt it was a little too on the nose, though not before concept artist Ian McCaig had produced artwork exploring the idea. The notion of a young Solo being raised among the Wookiees had in fact been suggested years earlier, during a story conference for The Empire Strikes Back in 1977. The name Utapau originated in some of the earliest drafts of what was then titled The Star Wars, where it was initially proposed as the planet that would eventually become Tatooine. Although the idea evolved, the name clearly lingered in Lucas's imagination. Years later, following another unused attempt to apply it to the planet that ultimately became Naboo, Utapau finally made its on-screen debut in Revenge of the Sith, as the film's dramatic sinkhole world. In the opening sequence, when the second Separatist ship is destroyed, a fragment of debris can be seen hurtling back into the clone Star Destroyer that fired the fatal shot. That fragment is, in fact, a kitchen sink. It was inserted by Industrial Light and Magic as an inside joke, inspired by a crew member's remark that they were throwing everything into the sequence except the kitchen sink. One of the earliest concepts for General Grievous envisioned him as a small child seated on a floating chair, protected by two IG-88 droids from The Empire Strikes Back. George Lucas rejected the idea, believing that a child would not be taken seriously as the most formidable hand-to-hand fighter in the galaxy, which is how he intended Grievous to be portrayed. Instead, elements of General Grievous's final facial design were apparently inspired by the shape of a bathroom detergent spray nozzle. General Grievous's cough was provided by George Lucas himself. Suffering from bronchitis during post-production, Lucas's harsh, rasping cough was recorded live rather than created with effects. Sound designer and Grievous voice actor Matthew Wood recognised that the raw, broken quality perfectly suited a warlord barely holding himself together. Lucas's authentic discomfort was layered into the mix and used in the final cut. Moments before Anakin was struck down by Obi-Wan, something rather bizarre occurred. Although it had been hiding in plain sight since the film's release in 2005, it took nearly 2 decades for anyone to notice a peculiar cameo in the middle of the duel. If you glance over Skywalker's shoulder, you will spot what appears to be a human face lurking in the background. Before long, someone unearthed a photograph of the Mustafa set, featuring a crew member who bore a striking resemblance to the so-called Mustafa Man, seemingly caught on camera during the filming of this heavily green screen sequence. Listeners who play close attention as Anakin ignites his iconic lightsaber to cut down the next generation of Jedi may notice something unusual. The sound produced as the blue blade erupts from the hilt is subtly different from the effect heard earlier in the film when it is activated. The altered audio quietly reinforces the transformation taking place, suggesting that although he wields the same lightsaber, Anakin is no longer the man he once was in this harrowing moment. Eagle-eyed viewers may notice a YT-1300 freighter remarkably similar to the Millennium Falcon, descending towards a landing platform on Coruscant. Whether this fleeting glimpse was intended to show the actual Millennium Falcon, however, remains open to speculation. But in the expanded universe stories, this YT-1300 has been identified as the Millennium Falcon itself, then operating under the name Stellar Envoy, long before it ever came into the possession of Han Solo. The operatic performance observed by Anakin Skywalker and Chancellor Palpatine was nicknamed Squid Lake by the crew. Among the attendees were George Lucas, appearing beneath blue makeup as Baron Papanoida, along with his daughters Amanda Lucas and Katie Lucas. Several notable figures from Lucasfilm and Industrial Light and Magic also featured in the background. Lucas also made the bold decision to kill off his own son on screen, as Jet Lucas made another cameo appearance. Lucas's adopted son's character was mercilessly cut down in front of the horrified senator. Some of the Wookiees were portrayed by exceptionally tall performers recruited from Australia's professional basketball teams. As the production had made only 8 Wookiee suits, the team cleverly relied on interchangeable props, including different weapons and pieces of armour, to give the numerous members of the impressively hairy army their own distinctive appearances. The Wookiee battle can be traced back to the earliest drafts of Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, in which the Wookiees were originally intended to assist the rebels in overrunning an Imperial bunker. The concept later evolved into the Battle of Endor in Return of the Jedi. However, rather than using Wookiees, George Lucas chose to introduce a smaller furry species instead, the Ewoks. In every shot featuring C-3PO, the entire green screen set was reflected in his highly polished gold armour. As a result, digital effects artists were required to painstakingly repaint his armour, frame by frame during post-production, to remove any visible trace of the set. The dramatic imagery of Mustafa's volcanic activity was enhanced by real footage of an actual eruption. During production, Mount Etna was actively erupting, prompting a small film crew to travel to the Italian volcano and capture material that was later incorporated into the film. During the climactic confrontation, when Obi-Wan finally accepts that Anakin has succumbed to the dark side, he cries out in anguish, declaring that Anakin had been the Chosen One. Those words were far from incidental. The name Mustafa is derived from the Arabic Mustafa, meaning the Chosen One or the Preferred One, a detail that certainly would not have escaped George Lucas. Digital magic was at work throughout Revenge of the Sith, as every clone seen on screen was entirely computer-generated. Not a single set of physical clone armour was built for the production. It was not until nearly 2 decades later that a tangible version finally appeared, with physical clone armour appearing in the series Obi-Wan Kenobi. While filming Revenge of the Sith, Christensen was not originally meant to wear the iconic suit of Darth Vader. At 6 feet tall, he was nearly half a foot shorter than David Prowse, who had worn the suit for most of Vader's previous film appearances. However, Christensen was determined to have the opportunity to step into Darth Vader's armour himself. He admitted that he had persistently lobbied for the chance, which ultimately led to a version of the suit being constructed to fit him properly. Liam Neeson revealed that he recorded a cameo as Qui-Gon Jinn, intended for a scene alongside Yoda, which further explored the idea of a Jedi communicating from beyond the grave. There was originally a piece of dialogue later removed during the Count Dooku lightsaber duel, which revealed that Anakin's mother's torture and death at the hands of the Tusken Raiders in Episode 2 had been no accident, but secretly orchestrated by Count Dooku. The revelation drove Anakin into a furious rage, ultimately leading him to kill Dooku moments later. In an effort to better acquaint himself with industrial light and magic's technology ahead of filming War of the Worlds, Steven Spielberg directed several pre-visualization scenes of Revenge of the Sith. The popular animated television series Star Wars: The Clone Wars was created to bridge the 3-year gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. In a similar fashion, another series was developed to explore the period between Revenge of the Sith and the original Star Wars film. Obi-Wan Kenobi takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. The series sees Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen reprise their roles as Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. The first 5 Star Wars films were all nominated for the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Revenge of the Sith, however, did not receive a nomination in that category, making it the first entry in the franchise to miss out. It was nominated for Best Makeup, but ultimately failed to secure the award. The film also received the fewest Golden Raspberry Award nominations of any of the prequels, earning just a single nod. That nomination went to Hayden Christensen, who went on to win the Razzie for Worst Supporting Actor. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Revenge of the Sith. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.